Are you following all the right strategies but still feel stuck? The real problem might not be your mindset or your business plan. It could be hidden emotional blocks quietly holding you back. And I'm familiar with those blocks, believe me. Breakthrough specialist Jennie Hays reveals why true success goes beyond mindset and strategy. She shares how brain spotting helps entrepreneurs uncover subconscious barriers, break free from self doubt, and gain clarity and momentum. So imagine moving past procrastination and imposter syndrome for good. In this episode, Jenny helps us recognize what's really holding us back and how to create lasting breakthroughs in both business and life.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where you will discover how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Paul Guyan, the mastermind behind the Lead Machine, introduces you to trailblazers who inspire you to implement life-changing solutions and systems you can model to nurture your leads and get your offers seen by your ideal clients who will invest in themselves and you. Be sure you visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, tune in and get ready to transform your vision into reality.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyan, your host, lead machine coach, and the founder of the Lead Machine Marketing Group and Mastermind. And I'm dedicated to helping you tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream life. So whether you're just starting out or turning and taking your business to the next level, let's just get this conversation started and turn your dreams into reality. Now, Jenny, thank you so much for coming to the show. I told you before we started recording that I was going to read your bio, but I think people have heard enough. So why don't we just tell us a little bit about yourself and what is brain spotting? So what is that all about?
So, a little bit about myself. I've been happily married to the love of my life for 15 years. Stepkids, I have two new grandbabies on the way. We've got animals out our ears.
We do too.
We just got two new puppies. I started off my career in customer service, moved to paramedicine for 10 years, and then have been making my way into the coaching world. Now, I'll give a little bit of a hint to probably stuff that we'll talk about later, but I spent a long time not able to do what you help people do. And that's what actually did land me in brain spotting. So brain spotting is what they call a somatic technique. It's a type of therapy where we use the body and the mind to connect. And what we're doing is we're taking all those stuck moments, those pieces where you just can't do the thing, or you're dealing with imposter syndrome, you don't feel like enough, or even heavy traumas that are just keeping you from moving forward in life. And we help the brain to kind of complete the memory and
Mm-hmm.
allow you to move past it, but in a way that is, you don't have to relive everything. It's not painful, and it's super quick and permanent.
Gotcha. And I'm familiar with that concept. I've never heard it called brain spotting, but there's a book called Feel the Feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a coach that I coached under, Christian Michelson,
Mm-hmm.
who teaches the peace process, which is that mind-body connection. And in fact, you talked about paramedicine. Both of my parents and my brother were in physical medicine and rehab. And
Okay.
my mom and my dad were very fascinated with the mind body connection and how, like, if you're an amputee, you still feel your leg, and that really there's you've got to deal with that. If you can fix it and live with it, you have a much richer life, right? Or
Right.
if you have a stroke and you can't speak, or you can't move your left hand, uh, you know, a lot of that trauma stays with you after you had that. And there are ways, and I hope we're gonna dive into those, that you can overcome some of those things. So, but we're talking about business today. We're not talking
Right.
about health, but I think there's no matter if it's business or health or relationships. This technique that I hope you're going to tell us about is going to be kind of universal.
Right. It is. It's very universal because also our minds and bodies are kind of universal when it comes to what happened to cause us to get stuck. We like to think
Yeah.
that it's a straight line, A equals B. If so, just sitting and feeling your feelings and getting through it, or feeling the fear and do it anyway, which is what I hear a lot, would work. It would work every time.
Mhm.
But as someone who sat there in my business month after month after month, not making any money, taking all the courses, spending all the money on, coaches and everything, and yet I had this block. I couldn't do the thing. So,
Yeah.
almost every marketing expert will say, reach out to your fans and family members. Um, make that list of 25 or 100 people that you know and reach out and let them know what you're doing. Get on Facebook, tell people what's going on. I couldn't do any of those. I knew I needed to do them. I knew it. But in my body, I would go to do it and it'd be like, ooh, that just doesn't feel good. I'm going to go over here and build a web page instead. I'm going
Yeah.
to go over here and do X, Y, or Z instead. And so I was always busy, always looking for the answer, and never realized the answer was right inside of me.
Within you. Yeah.
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 And the thing I love about brain spotting is that it is one of many somatic techniques. It's one of many mind body techniques, but it is so much faster because a lot of the mind body techniques take repetition, they take time. Many
Mhm.
of the issues, especially as entrepreneurs, I love working with entrepreneurs because it's so fast. Usually we can get through it in 1 to 3 sessions max. And it's
Yeah.
not, okay, well, I feel bad and I can do it anyway. It's just, oh, I get it now. And now I can do it. I don't have that feeling anymore. I don't have that block to doing it. Like it literally took me 1 session to go from not being able to market to being able to be on your podcast?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this just happened recently, or you've been doing this for a while?
No, so I've been doing it I'm going on my 8th month now of
Oh,
doing
okay.
brain spotting under my own business name. I've actually been doing brain spotting for a little over 2 years
Okay.
um, under another business. The funny thing is here I was at the same time beating a dead horse with my insulin resistance coaching business. Literally, the clients I got when I would join a course because then I was forced to talk about what I did. People went, "Ooh, I need that."
I need that. Yeah.
And so I would earn back what I spent, but you can't make a living doing that. And so
Yeah.
here I was just going just over and over, not doing the thing, not doing the thing. And all of these clients that I'm working with doing brain spotting, I'm helping them go from, I can't even tell my doctor that I've opened up my practice, and this was a therapist, to after 1 session, her telling that doctor, calling 2 other doctors, going through a list of people she knew from another career. Someone saying, I can't charge what I need to because I don't want to offend people. I don't want to, I don't want people looking down on me. To not only are they charging what they need to charge, but then 2 weeks later, when I saw them, they actually were raising their rates because they understood that in a business, you have to charge what you need to cover your
Right.
expenses.
Mhm.
So I'm watching all of this over and over and over and over. And it was like, well, gee, I've done brain spotting for other things, personal traumas, um, infertility, things like that. Maybe I need to do it for my business. And so I did a session. Isn't it amazing how we can have an answer in front of us and we don't use it?
Yeah.
I did a session and I walked away with the realization I needed to build a business that was built around who I am
Mhm.
and what I love. And it was like, wait a minute, I absolutely love brain spotting. Why am I not doing that? And now, I mean, I'm 7 months in, I'm profitable. I made about a little over 2 grand last month. It was the first month that I had income because, you know, you have that ramp up period.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting at least the same for February, if not hopefully double it is my goal.
Double. Yeah.
So
Let's double that.
let's double
Double
that
that.
because I'm doing the things this time.
Yeah.
All the things I said I was doing before that I knew I wasn't, it wasn't me that I was broken. There wasn't something wrong with me. I just needed to figure out that piece, and my brain and body had it the whole time.
Yeah. And those of you who are listening, I'm hoping you're this is resonating with you because I know a lot of us, including me included, I have a technology background.
Hmm.
And I happen to have been in marketing for many, many years because I'm a musician and I've been putting on events since I was 13. But when you're in a sales position, when you're selling, ooh, that doesn't feel, oh, that's outside my comfort zone. Or hosting a podcast was not in my comfort zone because I didn't want to be, seen or being judged or whatever, to be known. But here I've been helping business owners for 40 plus years, be profitable and growing and not having to increase their overhead and putting all kinds of systems in place. And that's when the lead machine was born, was because I said I was out there buying courses and I was in one. And I said, well, what's your topic going to be? And so we mapped out my topic and people started saying, ooh, I need that.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
need that. And then all of a sudden I had a cohort of 5 people who paid me money to learn what I was teaching. And from there, then I started the podcast and so on. So,
Right.
and still going in the sales call, is now more like a podcast interview, like I'm having with you right now. I know what I need to know about you to be able to help you. I
Hmm.
know what I need to ask you to be able to help you. So it's so much easier now that I've gotten past that. So how do we apply brain spotting? How does it work? What's it look like?
Yeah. So let me explain a little bit about how it works, and then I'll give you some pieces that you can use a little bit on your own. Really, brain spotting does work best with a practitioner. I do it over Zoom, so it's not like you have to drive anywhere. And I'm one
Uh,
of 14,000 brain spotters in the world, more now because we're always graduating people. Um, so brain spotting, what you do is you come in and we basically tap into the feelings that are keeping you blocked. We don't have to find the memory. We don't have to know all the details. All we need to know is that you can feel it in your body and actually are outside of your body. I had somebody that I brain spotted that knew that there was a brick wall in front of them. That's all that they could tell.
mhm,
So once we identify that, then we go through the motions of finding your brain spot. Now, what is a brain spot? Well, the brain spot is actually where your eyes are looking that increases the sensation. So if you
mm,
think about the last fight you had with your significant other, or maybe the idiot in traffic this morning that you were just going crazy with,
mm.
or maybe when your kids did something that it was just gotcha.
Or don't do something.
Or don't do something. Yeah, they didn't clean their room or whatever. If you can find that in your body, just notice where it is. And then I want you to take your eyes and I want you to look straight ahead. And then I want you to look with just your eyes all the way to the right. Again, thinking about that incident,
Mhm.
and then all the way to the left. And the
Okay.
majority of people will notice one side, that sensation is stronger than the other.
Hmm. I'm sensing it.
Yeah. And so we actually do a little more refining on it. We do it on an X, Y, and Z axis for those of you that have, that little bit of math knowledge.
Mhm.
So distance as well as side to side, up and down. And we find that spot and we use that as an anchor. The theory is that that is where the memory that is causing the problem is stored.
Mhm.
Okay. And so we're going to sit with that and we're going to allow that spot to communicate with the body. And so the brain and the body connect. And really, it's a matter of listening. Um, here's my theory of when I explain brain spotting, what we're doing. So when we're using a typical technique for um, limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome, fear of being seen, fear of failure, success. What we do is we start with affirmations or activities where we're telling ourselves we can do this, right? Problem is that comes up into the brain, and in the brain we have this sensory, basically. Its job is to stand behind the fence to your mind and protect you from things that are going to hurt you.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the brain believes things that are familiar are safe. So when you bring something up to that sensory and say, I can market my business, I can make that sales call, I can pick up the phone, I can do that sales call, it's going to be fine. Comes up to those sensories and they go, she said she can do the sales call. Let's check. And so they go and they start looking in the files in your brain. And they're like, ooh, no, failure, failure. Nope, she didn't do that here. She didn't do it there. And they come back to you and go, nope, can't do it. Don't do it. And we shut down,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So, with those repetitive techniques, what we're doing is we're providing proof, we're creating new files. And so, over time, eventually the centuries go, oh, yeah, but there's some stuff over here. Okay, maybe. Okay, yeah, she can do it. With brain spotting, we completely bypass those centuries in that gate. And we come
Mhm.
in the back, we take those old files, throw them away, put the new files in. We're done.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what are some of the common emotional blocks? I mean, we talked about a couple, but or patterns of self-sabotage that we face, and how can you recognize them, Hem? Because when you say self-limiting beliefs, that's a
Mhm.
really broad thing.
It is.
That and so is it I'm afraid to walk my dog near the road because I'm afraid of getting hurt. Now, there's a specific thing, and I am afraid of walking my dog by the road because we have a fast road, right? We live on a fast road, and he will get away, she will get away, and you know,
Well,
bad
yeah,
things will happen.
there's logic like
Yeah.
that, where when
Mhm.
if you were to share that with another human being that had the same rationale, they would be able to go, you know what, that makes sense. When you first started the conversation, I'm afraid to walk my dog near the street. Hmm, maybe it's a block. Oh, wait, because we have a road that high speeds, and my dog will get away. Now it becomes realistic and rational. But when we're doing the first part and there isn't that rationality, and a lot of times we recognize it already. We're like, I need to make that sales call because if I don't, I can't make sales. But it's really hard for me to pick up the phone. I'm really afraid of doing that. And I don't
Yeah.
want to admit that to myself. You'll see it a lot in procrastination. Be like, oh, well, I'll just put that off for a little while. And sometimes just acknowledging that it's a block is enough to fix it. I literally help people build their websites all day long with this company I work with.
Mhm.
And for 18 months, I couldn't do my own website when I was doing the insulin resistance. And it dawned on me, I was like, oh, that's a block. I'm not that busy. It's not that I can't do it. I just don't feel like it. I don't like it. And so I did it in a day and a half. And that's while I was working full time back then. Um,
Yeah.
so procrastination's a huge one. Um, Backpedaling. So let's say we're on the sales call and your rate is 1997 for your coaching package. But as soon as you get ready to say it, you start feeling uncomfortable.
Mhm.
You've done the practicing, you've said it over and over and over again in the mirror like you're supposed to, but it doesn't feel good. So you go, well, it's 1497, but on today I've got a special or it's 1997, but I've got a special for 1497. But if you really want it, we can do it for 800. But and so you start
Yeah.
undercutting yourself because you're afraid what they will think about you if you charge your full rate. Other instances, you get invited to do a podcast like this. You're excited, you know that it could possibly expand your reach, but you're like, oh, I just don't know if I can get on there. I love to talk, but I just don't I'm just afraid. What will I say? What will he say? What are people going to think?
Mhm.
And so sometimes it's our innate protection from the unknown. And it's so much so that we stop in our tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes, and like you said, you don't need to know what the trauma was.
Right.
I have a son who has PTSD, and
Mm.
he wasn't in the service. He's 21 years old now. He won't go out of the house. He said, I said, you know, you need to come over for our Easter celebration. That's, you know, 50 days from now. And he's been to grandma's house before, to my mother-in-law's house
Mhm.
before. And he says, well, you know, I keep getting sick. I keep getting sick. Well, what he's living over this trauma that he had when he was a child, and we don't know what it is, and he's afraid to tell us about it. And so
Right.
that's I don't know where I was going with that, but that keeps him from living a full life. He doesn't work. He lives with
Yeah.
his mom, and you know, I fear for his future.
Yeah.
And can I brain spot for someone else? It's my question.
You cannot brain spot for someone else because he's got to actually do the technique.
Yeah,
But he doesn't have to remember. He doesn't even have to share if he does remember.
yeah,
I have done sessions where the person has completely muted their screen. I had one person who turned around the other way. She felt her brain spot was behind her. I didn't hear a word she said. She talked the whole time, but I have no idea. And so it's a very freeing way of dealing with things because you don't have to leave the home, but mainly because if there's something inside of him that he is afraid to share or verbalize, you know, because sometimes just saying the thing is overwhelming and traumatic in and of itself.
it would be. I think so.
Yeah, he doesn't have to say anything, and he doesn't have to relive the memory during the session. Some people do. If they know what the memory is, they'll relive a piece of it here or there, and we can actually do things like replace the picture. There's some other techniques that we can bring into brain spotting to enhance it. But most people, they never even have to touch the memory because all we're working with is where it keeps them stuck right now. So for your son, he's not going to be a 1 to 3 times probably, but what we would do is we would say, okay, think about when you're having to leave the house.
Right.
That sensation is what we're going to tap into. And some people, I mean, some people do have memories that they recall, but some people just see colors. Some people just feel the motion, the movement of the emotion move around their body. Some of them will hear words, see pictures. It's very unique and it's so much less traumatic than talk therapy, where you have to go into detail, or exposure therapy. Uh,
Yeah. He
yeah,
won't do that. He's been through that and he won't do it.
yeah. And it's painful is why.
Yeah.
Because those work by trying to numb your senses.
Mhm.
And what we're trying to do is complete the memory. So when we
Yeah.
experience something in the world, it comes in through our body. It's not just our brain that senses it, right? We feel
Mhm.
it, we taste it, we touch it, we experience it. It comes up into the limbic system, which is our fight, flight, fawn response center, right? And that area of the brain goes, is this too much to process? Or if I let go of this right now, is this going to kill me if I can't pull it back up?
Right.
And the minute it becomes a yes to either one of those, instead of putting it in long term storage where it's about as important as the shirt you wore last Thursday, it becomes this little time capsule. And that time capsule leaks. And so your son has got a time capsule from the trauma, and it's leaking when he tries to leave the home. And so brain spotting allows us to pop that time capsule open and scoop out all the yucky insides so that it can then be put into long-term storage.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. And actually some of my more recent clients have been parents like yourself who's got a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old who's stuck in their life due to a trauma. And they're like, I've tried everything. We've tried all the therapies. Nothing is working. Let's try this. And we make great leaps and bounds with this. EMDR, which is a different technique, different somatic technique, is considered to be the gold standard for PTSD.
Yeah.
I think brain spotting is going to become the platinum standard because studies are showing it takes about half as long, half as many sessions for brain spotting to clear severe trauma, like war trauma, like SA, like domestic violence.
Mhm.
And so, yeah. And the great thing is it can be used for that trauma, but it can also be used for those little things like, I don't feel I can be loved. People don't like me. I'm
Mhm.
afraid that they're going to find out who I really am. And, that good old imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah. So the subject needs to be willing to undertake the kind of therapy, and that can be a fear also,
Right.
because they're afraid of having uh, to expose what the trauma was, because they might be shamed of it. There might be something they
Right.
did or something that was done to them, or they experienced or they were afraid of, you know.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Now we're talking about parenting. So what do you advise? What did you do to get the subject to say, yeah, I've tried. I realize that I've tried everything beyond self-medicating. Uh,
So we'll talk about it later that I do a 30-minute call for free. And really
uh,
what I do is I explain all of this. I say, look, you don't have to ever tell me. You can. It does make it easier for me to guide you, but I don't have to know anything about what happened. It's all going, and you don't have to relive it. All we're going to do is process the emotion part of it. And if you can just not analyze it and just process the emotion, then it'll be fine. And here's a really important thing is that we don't have to go to the traumatic part, the deep part. There's different brain spots. So typically with something like imposter syndrome, failure being seen, those things, we can tolerate that feeling in our body.
mhm.
And so when we find the brain spot, we're going to land on the one that creates the most unease in our body, the most tension, and we're going to work from there. When we're dealing with more um, significant traumas, deeper traumas, sometimes they can't tolerate that. And so there's other spots we can find. We can find one where they feel it a little bit and they can process it, or we can go to the exact opposite and do what's called an expansion brain spot, where we look at what will things look like if this is gone. And it
Mm.
allows the brain to kind of go backwards and process it. It can be
Yeah,
just as significant, just as clearing, depending on the individual.
gotcha. Yeah, I like the reverse engineering. That could work with my son. But so let's get off my son and let's talk about business owners, because business owners are who are likely listening to this podcast, and some of my friends that just love to hear me talk about. I had Ebenezer Scrooge on my podcast over Christmas,
Oh my.
and it was, of course,
That was,
it was an actor, of course, but
oh, of
but
course.
but that was a fun episode. But so for entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
business owners, small business owners, can you share maybe some like dramatic from here to there kind of case studies or
Yeah.
success stories?
So, first of all, I have case studies on my website. I try to keep them up to date. They're all anonymized. So, anybody who's like, well, could, this help me? There's very likely something on there that you'll align with.
Uh-huh.
But I I love when people see their ability to find their voice. So um, I don't remember if we were recording yet or not. I think we were when I was talking about the first one of the first ones I did, where she reached out to her physician. I think we already covered that one.
I think
So
so.
yeah, another one. I had a client who is a type A personality. Well, we don't often think of type A personalities as getting stuck. but they do.
I
But
do.
they get stuck on the opposite side of the go, 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 go. I can't have a life because if I do, it'll stop me. So this woman was set to, this was her first year in business, and she was looking at, an $80,000, $90,000 year. Pretty impressive already. But she was not allowing herself to live her life. And she was getting exhausted. She was starting to get to the burnout stage. She's like, I don't have enough time to do all the stuff that I need to get done. So we brain spotted that. She was able to give herself back almost 2 full business days.
Mhm.
And instead of making 80 to 90, she capped out her year at just under 150.
Yeah.
Because she gave herself back the time she needed, she was able to roll that into revenue time, which was completely different than what she was doing before. And she couldn't have seen that before, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
we were talking about that earlier about how I'll just go take this other course. So
yeah,
many of my clients are professional course takers, and or prospects too. And they said, I learned this today. I learned this today. And if they didn't ask me to be coached, I'd be thinking in my head, says, well, why didn't you do that thing? Because they're afraid to do that thing.
right.
But of course, when they coach with me, that those are some of the things that we talk about, and I said, well, what did you accomplish today? What was your wins? What obstacles do you have? Let's talk about those and try to unpack them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that with my clients, what I do is if we set a plan to do something and they come in 2 weeks later and they haven't done the plan the first time, we'll talk about why didn't you do it? What what happened? And sometimes it's very legitimate. The kids got sick. This became more important. I had this opportunity, and so I stepped into this instead. Second time that they come back and they haven't done it, now we're starting to talk. Do we need to look at brain spotting? Is there a reason, or are we procrastinating? Are we putting this off? Is there a block? If they come back a third time and they haven't already decided they wanted a brain spot, it's like, yeah, next session's a brain spotting because it's a block. And you can have all of the techniques, all of the strategy, the best coaching in the world. But if you have blocks and you're not addressing them, you will stay stuck. I've watched people, I was stuck for 5 years. I've watched other people stuck for year after year after year. And if we can get through some of these things that are making you not do the thing, you should be, as I'm sure you tell your clients, when you look at your to-do list, which ones are going to make me money? Which ones are actually tied to revenue?
Mhm.
Am I doing those? Because those are usually the ones we don't want to do for the fear of being seen, the imposter syndrome that, fill in the blanks.
Yeah, yeah. So what this seems woo-woo to me. And I've had a lot of guests. I just had a manifestation expert
Hmm.
on last week. Her episode's going to go live tomorrow or this week. Um, and you always in the back of your mind, you said, yeah, if you look back, I'm a Christian. So if
Hmm.
if you look back in the Bible, Jesus said that ask and you will receive, knock and seek and you will find, knock and the door will be answered. And so uh, I know that there's truth in that because I'm a believer, but there's truth even in the woo-woo side of things. The universe, which was created by God,
Hmm.
uh, acts in a certain way, and there's things that can be attracted to you, and there's things that you can repel, and it all goes back to what we're talking about, is those blocks. Those blocks are negativity, and you vibrate.
Hmm.
There's a vibration that pushes things away, like money or opportunity, and then there's a vibration that brings things towards you that attracts. So gratitude, I think, is one of the big things. And does brain spotting have anything to do with gratitude? And do you include that when you're working with your people?
Nope.
No.
Let me get you a
No.
little
What?
deeper. Yeah, I know. Let me get you a little deeper conversation because
Yeah.
I do believe in manifestation, obviously because it is biblical, but also because, as usual, Science is catching up with the Bible. Quantum physics is actually showing entanglement of these. I can't think of the word right now. I just completely lost the word. But basically, what you're
Quantum
doing,
entanglement.
yeah,
Entanglement. Yeah.
quantum entanglement. So what you're doing, you can actually influence an atom that is thousands of miles away. I
Mhm.
mean, science is catching up to the Bible. As woo as brain spotting can sound because it's hard to explain, it's actually scientifically based. What we're doing is we are reframing and processing a memory. So, like I said, this is directly related to EMDR, which is another somatic technique. It's also related to several other therapies, RRT, ART. I mean, we could go on and on. But God made a beautiful machine when He made us.
Mhm.
And the way that we're supposed to work is that our brain and our body are supposed to work together. And unfortunately, during the Industrial Revolution, we lost that knowledge. And so when we first started diving into the science of the mind, psychology, we had some people go in there and they came up with some really wild theories. You know, Freud is, whew, you want to talk about woo. But when we're looking at reframing of memories, we're going back to that. Okay, this is the way the body and mind are supposed to work. It's supposed to come in, it's supposed to get through the limbic system. We're supposed to be able to move it from there into long term memory. And what we're doing is we're getting stuck. So all we're doing is allowing that memory to finish.
Yeah.
So it's actually been clinically studied. EMDR has been clinically studied. These other somatic techniques are well recorded, well documented. Um, it is relatively new. It's only been around since 2003. So you were looking for this is a sports story, but if you want an eye-opening, jaw-dropping story,
Sure.
David Grand is the inventor of Brainspotting. He was actually doing EMDR on an ice skater. So EMDR, when they do that, what they're doing is they're moving the hand rapidly, so the eye is supposed to follow the hand. What you're doing there is connecting the two hemispheres of the brain and trying to allow memories to complete themselves. And so he'd been doing EMDR with this ice skater for about 2 years because she had a jump that she could not land. It was a simple jump for her, not me. And they couldn't really, I mean, they'd made a little bit of progress, but they really hadn't gotten it to where she could stick that jump. And so, and she felt it was a block. So when he was doing the EMDR, he noticed her eyes in one spot did this. He was like, oh, that's weird. So when he did it again and noticed it was the same spot, he was like, let's just hang out there. And so they hung out there, and she did uncover a new memory. And that memory was of her mother walking into the ice skating rink and telling her and her father that she was done, she was leaving them. She was practicing that jump when that
Mm.
conversation happened.
Wow.
So a few tears, and a little bit later, when she finished the session and went to practice, she landed the jump.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it can be that dramatic, but it is very grounded in science for as much as we understand of the brain. So I'll put that limitation on it.
Right. And you know, and I come from a family of doctors. I'm not a doctor. I didn't want to go through that down that same path.
Right.
Uh, but you know, they are very interested in obviously science and you know, medicine and all those kinds of things. But they would really try to avoid, and since they were in physical therapy, physical medicine, there were
Hmm.
a lot of traumatic injuries, head injuries, strokes, amputations, you know, things like that, that people were wanting pain medication. And they
Hmm.
learned a lot about the mind-body connection. And when my mom practiced medicine until she was 86 or 7, and she had rotator cuff problems. And I learned this technique called the emotional freedom technique or
Hmm.
tapping.
Tapping.
I taught her tapping, and it worked. And but she kept forgetting. She was very forgetful at that age. She passed away at 90, but she kept forgetting how to do it. But when I told her, she said, "Oh, I feel so much better."
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's science that does support these things. And I do have friends and clients who are in the energy healing space that
Hmm.
this is sort of related to that. But it's the mind body connection that brings it all together. So I think there is a lot to be said. I mean, even Jesus would touch people
Touch.
or have them uh, stretch out their hand
Hmm.
or take
Yeah.
a step or pick
Pick
up
up
your
your map.
pick up your mat and walk.
Right.
So that was part of his healing protocol. Of course, he's God.
Yeah. He had a few extra powers that we don't have, but
Yeah, yeah. But we are in the image of God.
right.
So we have that potential. That
Hmm.
potential. I don't know what I was leading up to, but um, I was so impressed with my mom, though, how she just got it. She just got it right away. She said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
been studying this for a long time. So yeah, I believe there is basis and truth
Yeah.
in what this is all about.
Yeah. And
So,
EFT, I've actually used that myself also. I had some sudden onset claustrophobia. And the whole time I was doing the EFT, it was like, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. Oh, wow, it worked. But the one thing that I noticed with EFT is you do have to repeat it. And with the brain
yeah,
spotting, you don't. Now, I will say there are practitioners that can do pain spotting. I've never tried pain spotting,
mhm,
but it would be interesting to know if it would work on something like the rotator cuff. I
yeah,
just don't know. But yeah, there's so many things. There's so many things that are based in science that maybe we're thinking are woo because we don't have the science yet. 1,000 years ago, if you'd given somebody some kind of mold that had grown and it had fixed them, you would have thought that they were practicing witchcraft. And yet today it's common knowledge that we give everybody penicillin or whatever antibiotic.
yeah,
Um, so sometimes it's that science hasn't caught up with it yet.
yeah. Now, speaking of science,
Hmm.
do you believe, speaking of what is, people believe that faith and science don't mix, but they do. Do you believe that faith has something to do with the effectiveness of brain spotting?
No, but I think faith can be a beautiful addition to brain spotting. I did a session once with a young woman who was kept putting off expanding her business. And she was like, I know that I've been called to expand my business. I just can't do it. I'm afraid. And so we did a session and she was kind of getting stuck. And I was like, well, is there somebody that you can bring in that will help you feel safe to explore this? And she was like, well, Jesus. I was like, okay, let's bring Jesus in. And so she brought Jesus in and he led her around the expanded business. And they had a beautiful moment together. We ended in prayer and she's got her new building and she's getting ready to start hiring for her new expansion and all of this. And so faith can be a beautiful addition to brain spotting, but you don't
Mhm.
have to believe brain spotting will work for
Okay,
it to work.
gotcha. Yeah, and there's a lot of things in faith that sometimes you have to go and you have to fake it until you make it,
Right.
because sometimes you just don't feel, and feeling faith isn't feeling,
No.
you know. Uh, but sometimes you don't. You just have to believe it,
Hmm.
and it will be. Uh, so tapping is the same kind of thing because there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, that'll never work," but it does.
It
It,
does. And like I
it
said, I
does.
was the whole time going, that won't work, won't work, won't work. My goodness, it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I discovered there's a bridge between northern Michigan uh, and the Detroit area. It's called the
Mhm.
Zilwaukee Bridge,
Okay.
It's near Saginaw, and it's about it goes over the Saginaw River, and it's a 4-lane highway going both directions, and it's I think 350. It's at least 350 feet above that, so it's really high. And at one time, that thing collapsed, and so it's been rebuilt and it's
Mhm.
solid. But people are going. This is on I-75, which is a north-south goes from it's a highway. Uh, it's a super highway. And people are going 80, 90 miles an hour going over this thing. And I never had any problem with that before, but but one time I was coming there and I was going, ooh, this is really, and I stayed in the middle lanes and I was going, oh my gosh, people are going zip past me. And then I said, oh, I wonder. And so I started doing this,
Doing the
which is
Mhm.
the first thing you would start about tapping. I relaxed and I didn't go 80, but I went the speed limit and I kept doing that over time when I would approach the bridge before I got on it and I was fine. I just came it just there must have been some sort of block that I had
Well,
about going over that bridge. And of course, hearing about it collapsing, I don't
yeah.
want to be on it when it collapses, you know.
I would say your brain was going, let's protect him. This thing has collapsed before. Why are you doing 80?
Yeah,
So, I mean,
exactly.
it's not always rational like that, but a lot of times it's rational,
Yeah.
we just have to retrain the brain to know that while you're thinking it's rational, in this case, it's not because we know it was built well. I can see other vehicles going across. And like I said, you can do the slow or we can do the fast. Either way, there's benefit in touching the body and tapping into the brain.
Yeah. Now there are other ways to get to Detroit, so I didn't have to go over that bridge, but that was the fastest way to get there. So
And
I,
and then we're starting to limit our life because of fear,
exactly.
which is not good. Yeah.
No, no, it's not good. So have we covered everything that you intended? I know we just kind of wanted to flow. Um,
Yeah.
we're kind of getting towards the end here. What are 3 things that our listeners can do uh, or our viewers can do to put these ideas into action today?
So, like I said, brain spotting itself, you can self brain spot, but it's really, really hard to do unless you've been trained in it, or and it's better with a practitioner, at least the first time minimum. But
Mhm.
there are several techniques that you can do to pull yourself out of the fear or keep yourself from developing new time capsules. So, one of the things that we don't do in America, in our culture, is feel what's going on. We have been conditioned to, if something's going on, shut it down and deal with it
Mhm.
later.
Yeah.
If you will allow yourself to actually experience that sensation and let it complete, you'll keep from building new time capsules. And it can be something small, like seeing the bridge collapse on, if you had been able to tap into the fear that naturally should develop at that time and go, okay, I'm just going to feel it all the way through, then we possibly could have prevented that time capsule.
Mhm.
Another thing you can do is use resources like tapping, like limiting beliefs exercises. One of the ones that I actually have a freebie on my website is where you identify what the voice is that you're hearing. Like maybe it's, I can't go across that bridge safely. You know, I'm, it just doesn't feel safe anymore. Great. Now that you know what that voice is saying, you're feeling something in your body. And so that's telling you probably that that's not the truth. That's what your brain is telling you. So, what is the truth? Well, the truth is it did collapse, but it's safe now. Now let's build the proof. Well, you know what? I've driven across it multiple times. I'm watching other vehicles. This has got traffic on it all day long, all night long. And then what you do is every time that that negative voice comes in, you feed it all of that positive proof. Again, we're teaching those centuries to look in these other boxes instead of the box where the block is. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the third thing you can do is realize you're not broken. It's not that there's something wrong with you. Your body is trying to protect you. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It just doesn't serve you anymore. And so all you need is a technique to move you out of that. I love brain spotting. I'm biased. It's okay. But there's many others, and we've touched on a lot of them, today. So do your research, reach out to somebody like me that, you know, um, I do a 30-minute free consult, and what I do is we talk about what's going on. Is this a block? So if you're an introvert and you're coming to me because you want to be able to do a TED Talk, I'm not going to make you an extrovert. But
Yeah.
if you're an ambivert or an extrovert and you want to do a TED Talk, but you have a block, we can clear it. And so I want to make sure the right people are getting the right thing because there's just so many options and so many things you can do, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants an unhappy customer. We want that person to be super happy. So,
Super happy.
yeah. So figure out what's going on. And if you can't figure out what's going on, ask somebody. I imagine that you have a really good insight to when your clients are blocked. If you're
Oh,
working
yeah.
with Paul, ask Paul, do you think this is a block? What are some options? How can we deal with it?
Right. And of course, we can always call Jenny and we can connect with
Always.
Jenny. We can, you can claim that 30-minute beyond mindset breakthrough call, which is a sexy name for that. You can go to www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com/ Jenny's offer, JENNIES offer. So, and also you'll find that in the show notes. And as we sign off, remember faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. And until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyan and Jennie Hays. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyan, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.